Hey, happy Friday. I understand there's some people out there that have joined us. I'm so happy. It is Friday, new month. We are here at the M4MM MProcure monthly webcast. I'm your host, Brian Martin. I am the National Director of the MProcure program for M4MM. And what the MProcure program is we are the conduit to give entrepreneurs and minority suppliers interested and that are already in the cannabis and hemp industry support, tools, engagement, dialogue, networking. We want to help foster your journey to success in this space. So thank you for joining us. Please take a moment right now and tell anybody you know that's interested in learning more about the cannabis industry to go to M4MM. We're live on Facebook, IG, and LinkedIn. And have them please plug in. A couple housekeeping items before we get started. I want to take a moment and give some gratitude for everybody that is here and that's been rocking with us. But I also want to take a moment. We want to send our prayers and our thoughts to anybody who was impacted by the storms down in the southern states. So our prayers, and if any of you on the call or any of your loved ones were impacted, we're sending you our best. So we are here this month to talk about all things supplier diversity and entrepreneurship and finding our pathways to success in this cannabis space. If you are a supplier in this space, I need you right now to go to MProcure.org or M4MUnited.org and go and register. Our VinMate platform is a great place for you to showcase your services. When we get calls, and we get them all the time, I got one last night with people entering that are in the industry looking for specific skills or specific skill sets. We now have a resource and are possibly able to connect you. And then we're also able to keep you engaged with us as a part of our community, and we can help you have the support and the tools and the resources that you need to be contract ready, as we call it. So we are here, and I could not be more excited about the guests that I have joining me today. We're on the heels of M4MM was in DC last week. Wow, for the Congressional Black Caucus, discussing our legislative agenda and all the good work that we're going to be doing going forward. And as such, we had a networking event with the Reverend Dr. Ben Carson, and Roz was able to interview him, and I just learned so much. But what I took away more than anything was the caliber of Black excellence that was in that room. And these people are pioneers in the cannabis and hemp industry. They're doing their thing, and they're across multiple different lines of businesses. So I want to bring my guests to the stage, and I think a couple people might be trickling in. We have Ms. Simone Kassan, Mr. Jeff Booker, Mr. Anthony Winston, Mr. Whitney Thomas, and Ms. Michelle Santos. And when I think about this cast of amazing people, you're touching so many areas of business. We've got insurance and security and manufacturing and engineering. And just, I think we're all committed and locked in this community that we're creating. And I, for one, want to tell you guys all how amazing it was to meet you all. And I want to, hear your thoughts about what the DC experience was like. It's always an amazing time being in DC during caucus. And I remember talking to you and not even knowing that we were already supposed to be connected, and Simone blew in, and then, Michelle blew in. And the only critique I had is that I didn't get enough time to engage more, right? So what I'd like to do is bring each of you in, introduce you. I'd love for you to tell your audience, who you are, a little bit about yourself and what your business is, and also share with us what your takeaway was from our time in DC, and if you had any learnings like I did. And I know Michelle and Jeff have to hop off. They're tight for time, so we want to be respectful of that. So why don't we start with the lady? And Michelle, why don't you take the floor?
And I apologize. I am jumping from state to state. I just came back from Baltimore, Maryland for the National African American Insurance Association Conference on the heels of the Congressional Black Caucus of 22. It was amazing. I rarely miss a year, so we missed that time when everyone was down and out with facing the COVID-19 challenges. But how awesome it was to be with in fellowship with M4MM and invite Dr. Carson in to speak to the audience. If you haven't been to the Congressional Black Caucus, you have to put it on your calendar for next year. It's an amazing time when we can meet with our legislators, our senators, assembly, Congress, folks from the Congress, and talk about policies, attend workshops, and take kind of take some marching orders back to our local community to impact change. So that's what we did, with M for MM and Dr. Chavis, and thank you to Roz and Brian for giving us this platform to have these really critically important discussions. I'm Nichelle Santos, CEO and founder of Canna Coverage. We provide insurance for the cannabis industry to help set up a safe, legal, compliant cannabis industry. And I know we'll talk a little bit more. I'll let my partner, Jeff Booker, speak.
Yeah. Thank you, Nichelle.
Well, thank you, Nichelle, and thank you to M for MM for providing this forum to allow us the opportunity to be able to speak to everyone. We are proud members of the organization, and we certainly enjoyed being in DC, have been to the CBC over many years. I had a chance, as Brian said, to come together as a community inside the industry to be able to network and find out who's doing what, and seeing there's plenty of room for everybody to be able to operate in the space. As Nichelle said, we are Canna Coverage. We are a full service insurance and risk management consulting firm, bringing almost 30 years of insurance experience to the industry. Nichelle, over 20 years. So it's not our first rodeo, but we are bringing what we do to the cannabis space, what we've done all these years. So we are headquartered in Newark, New Jersey, but doing business coast to coast. And we're pleased to partner with M for MM, especially as historic news came out of Washington in the last couple of days.
Yes.
And talk about that. There's much more to be done.
Yes.
But that was an important step, and there's more to be done. So we're pleased to put our shoulder, forward with everybody else and push. So and the impact public policy in the society at large. So appreciate the opportunity.
Love it. Nichelle and Jeff, thank you. Canna Coverage, you guys are doing it. I was just so impressed with the way you guys represented and showed up, and again, standing up and facing the challenges of being in insurance in this space. I can't even begin to wonder and to try to understand all the challenges. And this takes me right to my little fireball, Miss Simone Casson. If you don't know her, you will. And we have some intersection here in terms of similarities in business models, but obviously something somewhat different. So Simone, the minute you walked in the door, it's one of those things I can't explain it. We made eye contact and it was over from there. So I just want to thank you so much for being here, and please introduce yourself. You're muted.
Hey everybody, thank you for having me. Am I on mute?
No, we hear you.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you everybody for having me. My name is Simone Casson. I'm the owner of Cannabis Capital. We're actually the first African-American owned cannabis agency that insurance agency that focused on cannabis. So we've been doing this for since 2017, focused on cannabis and craft beverage. And we do everything from seed to sale, what have you. And we've also been able to do some really great things on the state level. We're based in Michigan, but we're in 13 different states as of now, going into 22. So with that being said, we have really been able to push some policies and some initiatives in our governing regulatory. 5 of the social equity initiatives that are out, 3 of them came from my committee that I was on the chairwoman for. 1, we extended an additional licensing type that was a micro craft kind of growing, but it allowed from not just from B to C, but also B to B to help regulate the market. In addition to that, we've also created joint ventures programs so that businesses would be able to get initiatives or get merit from partnering with minority businesses or women's businesses. And then last but not least, you guys have probably seen that I am the architect of the Michigan marijuana stock market, which we will be launching very, very soon. We'll become a full broker dealer. This is exciting for me. This is probably the big thing, one of the most historical things that I'll probably ever do, doing that. And so we really understand the not only just the risk management portion, but also to be able to offer investment opportunities that are tangible, and then including with us changing the narrative in public policy on a state level and now moving on to a federal level. So I am having the time of my life. That's what you do know.
As you should, and congratulations on all your success. And I think
thank you.
This. You are not done. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, I'm just getting started. There ain't nothing they can do with me.
We got plans next week, right? You just getting started.
I'm just getting started.
Mr. Whitney Thomas, talk to us, brother. Welcome.
Nice to see everybody again. I guess a couple of us were on the call that we did a little while back. So some of you, and obviously the ones who were in DC know, because we did our little presentation, but we're a security company. We're CLG and Associates. Me and my CEO Vince were at the DC event. But just as a recap, we're in Maryland, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Michigan, Missouri, California, Georgia, and West Virginia. We primarily provide guards and we do monitoring, security systems. In Maryland, we also do transport of product and currency. And so we've been doing this, I guess we started in 2016, end of 2016 into 2017, and we're about 150 employees and, growing. So we're just trying to expand. Right now, we work with one of the large MSOs, and we have, dispensaries, grow facilities, processing facilities that we provide guards for. So we're constantly just trying to expand and, create any new relationships that we can to, increase our outreach. So that's where we are.
That's really impressive. You're thinking about security and everything that comes with protecting an all-cash business and industry in multiple states with different jurisdictions and nuances. I can only
a lot going on.
It's got to be a lot going on, man.
Congratulations. And we've seen some stuff too. Our folks gonna get into some trouble.
Bro, that's got to be like reality show treatment.
We got some interesting stories for you, but yeah, it's been good.
Thank you, man. That's dope. Thank you, Whitney.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I saved this last brother to be last intentionally because it's just funny to me. Anthony Winston rolled into the event, dapper and fly, just super cool. And we started to engage, and I don't know if we can see him on screen just yet, but I was just so impressed, with his delivery. And little did I know that he was doing all the things he was doing in manufacturing and engineering, and had already had success in that space. So I want to invite Mr. Anthony Winston to come on screen and talk to us.
I'm here, but I can't see myself on the screen
either. Let's see. Let me stand by. We got you. We'll work it out. Awesome. But, while we bring Anthony on, just in summary, to our viewers out there, I'm constantly reminding people that there are different entry points, and people's existing skill set and experience can be valuable in this industry. And I think this array and diversity of thought and talent solidifies and confirms all that. You guys all bring excellence in your own areas of business, and then paving the way and finding coalition building coalition, building relationships, and in the spirit of coalition, so we can support and elevate each other's businesses. So that's really exciting for me. I know there was talk about the announcement that the president made yesterday, so I'm really interested in anybody's thoughts. I agree with what Jeff said. It's the first step in a journey, and that we're on. But I will say to everybody that I prefer a step forward as opposed to one backwards or marching in place. So we fight on. So Anthony, we cannot see you, but in the essence of time and being respectful of your time, Why don't you start talking to us, and hopefully we can get you on screen.
Yeah, I can see myself on the back end. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
So I'm Anthony Winston III, owner and founder of Winston Engineering. Started the firm about almost 8 years. I can't believe it's been 8 years now. And just originally started just doing electrical. I'm a licensed electrical engineer by trade, doing engineering construction permit plans on the electrical side for residential and commercial. And when it became legal here, or legal in California in 2017, I started getting asked, "Hey, do you do cannabis facilities?" And I said yes, as I always do, right? You say yes and you figure it out.
Yep.
And so since 2017, we've been offering HVAC, electrical, and plumbing engineering construction permit plans for all cannabis facilities, whether that's indoor cultivation, extraction, manufacturing, retail. It doesn't really matter. And we just recently, this past year, offered civil engineering. So now we can touch the site, right? We can do all the site planning, grading, and things like that. And right now, we're the only Black-owned MEP and civil engineering firm on the West Coast. I myself am licensed in 12 different states and now a couple provinces in Canada. So we're now an international firm. But it's been amazing. That event in DC was really eye-opening. I've heard of the Black Caucus, but it never really came across my radar. So when Roz asked me to come out, I was like, sure. I immediately booked my flight and was like, I'm there. And I had some really good conversations, different conversations. Like Brian, we were having, it was a group of brothers just talking, and it was almost cathartic, right? We were talking about mental health and things like that. And then to see Dr. Chavis, right? I had never heard of him, and to see his role in Black media was amazing. And I felt like I was in a room with a legend.
Wow.
Immediately I walked up to him at the end. I had to introduce myself because I'm originally from the South Side of Chicago. And as a little kid, my grandfather would give me 50 cents and say, go to the corner and get me a newspaper. And, lo and behold, it's one of the newspapers that I'm sure he was over at some point. So thank you guys for inviting me. And I appreciate everything you guys do.
Absolutely. We will be doing more of that. And you got a big speaking event coming up. We want to hype in a few weeks.
Yes. Yeah, it'll be my second time speaking at the Black Cannabis Business Magazine's conference in New Orleans. Their first conference was last year. And now we're coming back and, I freshened up the presentation, and I'm partnering with an architect, right? Because before you get to me, you got to talk to an architect. So I think it'll be really impactful. And, my goal is to always use my skill set to honestly better our community the best way I can. And if we can help, folks avoid pitfalls, because this industry is already expensive when you get into it. But if we can help you avoid pitfalls as it relates to architecture, engineering, and construction, man, that's what it's about.
Yeah, you nailed it. And all the challenges and adversity and everything you guys are going through kind of makes you subject matter experts in your respective areas, because we all talk about the challenges and there are plenty. And Anthony, to revisit your point about the Reverend Dr. Chavis, his approachability, his transparency, I left there reminded and encouraged and reminded of the fact that this is a journey. This man is a man of faith. He's coming out of the church in North Carolina, and to be at a cannabis event and his son interested in getting in the industry, and he being willing to have those frank and open conversations with clergy about, what is ultimately going to happen and how we reconcile, whatever your beliefs are with the fact that this is a money-making opportunity. A lot of people, I could probably safely speak for most of us, got into this industry in an effort to build wealth for our families and generational wealth and to contribute back to our communities. And he sees the value in that. So when I think about engaging diverse suppliers, it was really fulfilling for me to know that we had that type of ally in the house, right? So I know, now that everybody's introduced themselves, and you guys are free to jump in, I had a recent exchange, and I think you can all relate. How do you deal with the stigma of what we do? Right. I come from a very buttoned corporate background, with norms and opinions that aren't typically always mine, but they aren't reflective of my lived experience either. Right. So, I'm constantly educating and, leaning into my reasons and my why. But any of you have any nuggets or examples to share of how you?
I think we start with cannabis or marijuana is medicine. right? That's the foundation of what we
Education.
believe in with minorities for medical marijuana, that marijuana was put on this earth. It's a plant. It was put here by God, and it has numerous applications beyond our belief.
Right.
And much research and development is necessary to continue to discover all that it can do for us. Last week, the FDA announced that they are now engaging in research and development to make those discoveries, which is another example of the federal government dipping their toe into the cannabis industry and releasing the constraints they've had in prohibition of the plant and of people of color.
Right.
So I think we start to have more and more of these conversations to help normalize the industry across the country. And yeah, we are truly celebrating the work of President Biden yesterday, pushed forward by our state senator, Cory Booker.
TV.
And,
He's been showing up too.
Yes.
He was a fundraiser here in Nevada not long ago.
Yeah. And Project Clean Slate and MProcure for all of our work with expungements. And now we have the work to do state by state with each of the governors doing the same thing and expunging and pardoning those who have been previously convicted of marijuana charges.
Huge. And
not just possession, but also for selling, because now we've gone from criminalization to monetization.
Right.
So why are those who had to sell in the past still being criminalized?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And let's get them an entry point into this industry. You know, and if not this industry, let's clean their record so that they can go work and do what they want to do.
That's
right.
If I could jump in real quick, and I'll be short. You know, I agree with everything that everyone is saying. I think one of the things that we need to focus on is how do we create a matrix that actually makes this measurable, right? So a lot of times we get a chance and we have all of these great ideas, and there's no tangible pathway to be able to solidify this. So we can get on a soapbox and say, oh, we need to do this or whatever. And we've seen this movie over and over again. First thing that I ask when I talk about advocacy, my biggest question is the person that's talking, what do they do the day after it becomes legalized? That's something that you need to be able to really think about. What is their job afterwards? Because do they win by continually telling us what the problem is? Or do they win and benefit by you being able to be a solution? So that's the first thing. Again, we have to be able to continue to urge the discussion on the state level to be able to get state to be able to do the same pardon, because that is going to be very important, because we recognize that most of these possession charges are state level charges and not federal level charges. And then last but not least, we have to continue the conversation and let it evolve from social equity to social economics. Equity means ownership. And even if the czar of the world decided everybody and their mother was able to get a equity license, it only lasts for 1 year. So if we don't deal with the social economics, meaning our different relationship with money, then we're still in the same place. We have to be able to not just say things and say, oh, okay, great, this is a great narrative, and be able to put in tangible policies on the state level and even be able to speak as we go forward on the federal level to create serious pathways and solutions. And we have to be able to consider not only the individuals who were wrongly convicted, but also our local citizens. And in addition to that, our communities that were most impacted on the war on drugs.
Right. It's going to take a multi-pronged approach to
it takes a multi-pronged, and it has to be well thought out.
Well thought out. And that's where I was going with that. So I love your
well thought
point about tangible and transparent goals, building a strategy around achieving them, accountability. You know, all those things are going to be required. And you just hit the nail on the head.
And who are we listening to?
Yes.
Because we all know what the problem is. Right?
Yeah, you're right.
Are we listening to people that are reigniting the problem or people that are creating tangible solutions? And that's what we got to follow.
Love it. Thank you. I have another question. What advice would you give to a Black business starting out that wants to do business with cannabis? You know, we hear it all the time, and everybody wants a dispensary, everybody wants to grow, everybody wants to dive right in. But typically, what we know historically, by the time we find out and get an opportunity, that entry point is typically gone. So, oh, sorry, my office light went out.
Let me jump in on that one real quick, because our business
please.
is a perfect example of that. Our CEO, Vince, who was at the event, he is actually the director of security for a large MSO. They probably do, I don't know, somewhere between $200 and $300 million a year in sales. And when they started, they got their license in Maryland, and he became part of the group because he was the president of the Fraternal Order of Police for the state of Maryland. So he had the political clout, and he represented security in a way that looked good for the group. And so what he did, which was smart, he realized that security was a big part of what the company did. So instead of just working as their director of security and then hiring people, he at the same time decided to start his own security company. So now the security company also was providing security for the MSO, but it was his company. And so, you know, what I think a lot of people need to do, and you're kind of speaking to this right now, is look at it not just about cannabis, but about services that businesses need. That's why you have people on here that provide engineering. Like I personally have a degree in engineering myself, so shout out to them. But, you know, you have people insurance, you have people getting into finance. So all these areas are areas that revolve around any kind of business. And so look at it that way, and that, you know, what can I do? And then can I tie it into maybe the cannabis industry in a way that, you know, makes sense? Right. Not just, am I selling cannabis?
It makes sense. And, you know, build a coalition, build a network of supporters. And, you know, Simone, you mentioned earlier joint ventures. I talk about that all the time back in my corporate.
All the time.
You know, it's an opportunity. There's risks. You got to build trust. It's a journey.
You got it. Yeah. One of the things that I would say, I always tell people, I don't care if you selling dope or dog food. The most unhappy person in any organization is the person at the register. Most people come to me and they say, Simone, I want to get into the cannabis space. And the only thing that they know is to open up a dispensary. Well, first of all, money ain't enough in this game. You're going to have a whole lot of sleepless nights and everything else if you're trying to get there. It changes. You got to understand, if you open up a dispensary, literally the government or anybody can say what you have on your shelves is no longer any good. You got to totally wipe it out. That can happen any day. There's so many different policy and regulatory changes. So what I say, when people come to me, I'll get a social worker that says, Simone, I want to be a cultivator. And I say, oh, you a farmer. You a grower, you a farmer. They say, no. I say, well, you got a garden? No. Do you know how to keep a plant? No. Well, this probably ain't what you need to do. So in most cases, I'm going to encourage everybody to utilize the skills that they had already. Like Candace Coverage and us, we both were in insurance, right? And so we were able to leverage that and see that there was a special niche and a special kind of TLC that cannabis companies needed to be. CPAs, there's a lot of them I work with. They changed into that. I will tell you right now, in this market, the entities that are really making the money are the ancillary companies. It is the attorneys, the securities, all of that other stuff, because it is mandatory for you to work with us.
And you don't have the compliance, you don't have the regulatory restrictions.
Right. And you don't got to go get no license.
Right.
Anthony. All you need is your license for that. So use your passion and use your purpose to be able to put you in a situation where you can cash out on cannabis.
Love it.
That's right. Yeah. We always tell everyone to show up as you are. This industry requires the expertise of so many different fields, from janitorial to laboratories to paper supply. Things that every other industry requires. That's what the cannabis industry requires, and
absolutely right.
Certainly requires insurance. And the whole thing is, there's so much room for everyone. Simone is my girl. We're both in insurance, but she can't handle the whole industry, and Canna Coverage can't handle the whole industry. The same with security. Right. So I've heard so many people say, "Oh, the industry is already off and running. It's too late for us to get in." And no, it's not. We see that we have the African American Lawyers Association. I know it's a different named organization, but the Black lawyers on
Yes.
this call, we salute you. Thank you for joining
Yes.
us today,
And your
because
support.
the industry requires
Yes.
interpretation of laws for the cannabis industry. And what's makes it complicated is it's federally illegal. So that means that state by state, each state has to stand up the framework for these regulations, and it's ambiguous sometimes. So
You know, to
our
our
attorneys are very they're integral to
Yeah.
the industry.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
risk management, security is part of risk management. So we'll be working with those guys. Engineering is part of risk management.
Absolutely.
What are the engineering controls for your cultivation? You know, the plant is so sensitive. So one misstep, it can ruin entire
It's a
crop.
wrap. It's a
And
wrap.
if you don't have insurance, that one bad day will put you out of business. So it's necessary to really map out all the stakeholders as people are entering the industry, whether it's from plant touching or non-plant touching, to really map out all the stakeholders and make sure you're checking all those boxes and you have the right partners, like the folks on this call today.
Like the folks on this call, right?
Yeah.
Our tribe is cool. That's the one thing I love about the MProcure family. You know, the team runs tight, and the support structure is so solid and getting stronger and stronger. Anthony, I think you could add some value in this space. Dealing with
Yeah.
what are the challenges? How do we get them to embrace, invest, and really understand what supplier diversity means? It is my hope that once we go legally federally, that we'll be able to replicate those models that are in general business, you know, around mandates and certification and making sure that there's quotas in place. But what can we do now as first generation business owners to kind of move the needle in that space?
In terms of MSOs, I kind of look at it as no different than there are huge engineering firms out there, huge architectural firms that I've worked with, right? And I work with bad ones where they have on paper that they want a certain diversity requirement, and some that are really good. The ones that are bad, it's just a check mark, right? It's just something it's a PR thing. It's so that you're able to, like I said, check a box in order to get something, right?
Right.
But then you have those who are truly invested in making sure that it happens, and you can tell it's pretty obvious.
It's very instantly obvious
Who's who, and I think I'm tired of making the argument of you need diversity, and they tie it to you need diversity in order to affect your bottom line. No, we need to. For me, it's not even about the money. It's you need people of different backgrounds who can come in and provide a different perspective, and that's whether Black, women, LGBTQ. Hispanic, whatever it is, right? Everybody has a different lived experience.
That's right.
Even with my firm, right? We're extremely diverse. I mean, you got Black folks, got somebody from Costa Rica, Mexican, Purple Heart, military guy, right? We're all over the place, and I think that's where we found success. And it's not even something that I do intentionally. It's something that's just done, right? There's no diversity requirement within my company. We just do it because we know it's important.
And that's when it's organic and it's real. And to your point, you can tell when it's a check mark activity, because a real investment in supplier diversity, it's usually baked into their corporate social responsibility pillar, like with HR and leadership training and sustainability and green. So then there's, how do we make sure that we're hitting our goals in every level of employment? How are we making sure that we're diversified in the diverse communities that we engage? How do we educate our frontline, our procurement people and our buyers so that it's not a compliance, they understand the what's and the whys, because at the end of the day, it's tied to the spend, and people of color spend, right? And that's why influencers, I think you hit the nail on the head. Does anybody else have any insight?
I would definitely want to say really quickly
yes,
that although we have this narrative of the diversity and equity and inclusion, and mind you, this is a great business practice. We know that companies who engage in this as a whole outperform companies who don't, right? And so we can all agree on that as a goal. But people don't always, in corporations, don't always want to, or do not always push the narrative of doing the right thing. We pay taxes because we scared of the IRS, not because we're supposed to. You know that, right? And so with that being said, we have to, as people of color and people who have been disenfranchised, it is imperative for us to continue to showcase win-win solutions when we talk about this narrative of DEI, ESG, environmental, sustainable, and governance, and then when we talk about social equity and economics. It is imperative that we show in the blueprint that this is not just a moral responsibility, that this is a great business practice for your exposure, for your consumer dollars, for the influential, because we are a lot more forgiving than our other cancel culture individuals, right? So somebody, Gucci does something bad on Thursday, we mad for the weekend and we go and order that purse on Monday the next day, right? Like different than our color part, than our white counterparts. So it is very, very important for us to leverage our social voices, right? Understand that we're in a financial revolution so that we can be able to create this narrative, but also to no longer ask for a handout, but understand that these partnerships with us are great business practices.
Exactly. And I think back to a couple episodes ago, my good friend Tanya Isaac, who owns MBE magazine, she's WB certified. And she said, as a part of your pitch, and when you develop these relationships, I'm your partner in this. You're to your point, you're not giving me a hand, I am bringing value. We all know that we have
smart woman.
We have to stay on point, but we know how to do that, right? So,
I was going to chime in and say that one of the issues that we see, the diversity thing is interesting because we don't really push the diversity piece as much as we push knowledge of the industry. And so what I always suggest to people is understand everything. Like if you know all the ins and outs of what you're trying to do, be the smartest person in the room for what you do. And then you can get business, whether you're Black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. And so like to this point, we're over 150 employees and we haven't gotten any business from diversity. And so be good at what you do first. The diversity piece, I think, is obviously it's important. They've been killing us for 400 years. We go all day on that one.
Right, we can go. You said we can go all day. Yeah.
Only thing I would add is
like you're even listening on the stream is in the cannabis industry, a lot of the compliance issues and the devil is in the details, at least for what we do. And it's so complex in some areas because we also consult with people who are trying to start facilities, that kind of thing, because we've been around it for so long. But if you understand kind of how things work, you can get business just from your knowledge base. And that's, I don't think not enough people push. I'll give you a perfect example. We do transport in Maryland. We used to do transport in Pennsylvania. You have to have a certain type of vehicle because they don't want the vehicle to be something that you see that looks like a Brinks truck. So we had a whole fleet of vehicles. We had to switch a whole fleet out for a new fleet. There's like small things that if you understand how things work, you can get business just because you're perfectly aligned with what someone's trying to do. We got out of Pennsylvania because in Pennsylvania, you have to pick up product and deliver from a specific location. They grant like a license. You work from this area and then you can serve these areas, but you have to start at this area and drive directly to that area. It's so complicated and it was not cost effective because we would have to leave Western Pennsylvania and do deliveries in Eastern Pennsylvania, like on the coast where I'm at in Philly. And then they would have to drive all the way back and make all these deliveries in one day. It was just super complex.
It's a lot.
It didn't make the most sense financially for us, so we stopped doing transport in Pennsylvania.
When a couple things you said, I found everyone agreed. I think that number one, I think your experience as a minority business is kind of unique one. I think you might be the exception. What I also is quite often my clients and businesses that support me aren't always people that look like me, and sometimes my clients that look like me are my most difficult clients because we often but what I would also say, those entities and businesses that didn't get that opportunity and that really could benefit from having knowledge around supply diversity and really using that to make a viable entry point into the industry and really, becoming a part of the ecosystem because of that opportunity and the mentoring and training and support structure that can come with, that mentorship and having a presence in that space. I'm over DEI. I live and breathe it. So I never want to downplay it, but
no, I'm just kind of suggesting to do both.
Agreed.
Have your, you got your diversity thing happening, your whatever your group is, but at the same time, if MM4M puts you in position, because Roz always talks about this, to be ready. If they put you in position because you are a minority and they, that's a thing with whatever you're trying to get business wise, be good at what you're doing and tight with what you're doing, so that when you get the opportunity, you can knock it out the park and not be someone who you're there just because of the diversity.
Openness. I couldn't agree more. We talked about it last month.
I think it's two. I think it's twofold. Definitely. I think you have to be top in your game. That's always been my narrative. But then also, I think that we should continue to be able to be aware that there is an opportunity of a door being cracked a little bit more, you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with leveraging that. People leverage nepotism and everything else. Everybody else in the world leverages their relationships except for people of color.
It's called access.
Have y'all noticed that? Everybody
access.
else, they open up doors and, whether it's this organization or this culture or whatever. And I don't want it to be said that if we are able to have some type of crack in the door, we should be able to leverage it. That does not negate us being top in our game.
Right.
Because as people of color, if they give it 100%, we got to give 120. But let's not take away from the fact that this is the song that they sing it right now, and we need to be able to sing it too.
Absolutely.
I think for me, it's when that door is open and you get in there, you show and prove, you show who you truly are, and you do a damn good job when you're in there, so that it changes their perception, so that okay, maybe if that's how they thought, maybe people who look like that can do just as good a job or even better, and so that opens up doors for anybody else coming behind you as well.
You're right. One of the things that I've seen as a commonality amongst minority business owners that have had success, it is a keen awareness that, number one, we don't typically get a shot. But if we do get a shot, chances are it's our damn only shot. And
we have to make this the norm so we can stop having these conversations. I look forward to the day when we don't have to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, that we can be our best selves. We are all experts on this call, but we still have to be intentional and deliberate when we talk about the multi-state operators, when we talk about the pharmaceutical industries, companies getting into the cannabis industry. They have to share in the wealth, because we're also consumers making their bank accounts rich. So it is about equity and about fairness. And if we're not intentional and hold folks accountable, even as you look at the regulatory cannabis commissions across the country, they talk about social equity, and we see what's happening and we see what's not happening, and equity is not happening. So how do we hold these commissions accountable? How do we hold the multi-state operators accountable for supplier diversity? It's an imperative for us.
It is. And it starts, Nichelle, to engaging our voter base. That is what we have. That is our tool and our mechanism. And where we have the most leverage, is to start at the polls, to make sure that we have electeds in place that are aligned with our vision, that are just showing up and not being presentational. But to your point, on the corporate front, leaning into the fact that we spend and we're a viable consumer base and really making our presence known. And it doesn't mean we're kicking the door down, but we also know that since this industry has started to legalize at the state level, we've seen intentional steps to move us out. I mean, we have seen the same thing that happens in everyday life.
I think we built the infrastructure.
What haven't we built?
Who have shouldered the burden of criminalization. So why would we continue to be excluded? We can't just crack the door open. We do have to kick the door down and say, hey, we're here. We're experts in this industry. We know this industry better than anyone else.
At all levels.
Experts in it. So
the other conversation, I guess,
intentional.
that needs to happen is, where are we spending our money? Like that conversation, like we talk a lot about electeds and the political side, and it is important. I always think about the everyday people side. Like, stop spending your money with people who don't spend it with you. That message, we got to put that out some kind of way.
Well, I said that. I've continuously said that.
I put that on social media.
That drives me nuts.
I support.
Well, I've continuously said that as the national director for social economics, and you've heard me point about economics on plenty of occasions about our consumable dollars or whatever. Our program for M for social economics has 4 pillars. One of them actually considers consumable dollars, and so what that looks like is the cool thing about this generation X and down, different from us, is that they actually understood a couple things. One, they understand how to scale and monetize everything. I think they're wonderful. But then also they actually invest in things that are morally attached to them or connect to them. Before, in our generation, we bought products that were who we wanted to be. This generation buys things that who they are innately, right? And so when we look at who are we attaching ourselves to from different products or what have you. I recently, about a year ago, I got a chance to sit with some CEOs, and I asked them, and they were telling me, I asked them who their targeted market was, and they said, baby boomers. And of course, a year ago, that's who it was. And I explained to them that your target market is dying. Right? And so they're not going to be around that long. But we have African American women who are no longer using opioids. They're saging, they're putting crystals in their bras, they tired of these kids, and they smoking weed. And so if you are not out there targeting her, you have a business model that will soon deprive of its consumers. So understanding that we are now in cannabis 3.0. This conversation of cannabis 1.0, we had that 2 years ago. We've been through the pandemic. So definitely understanding the nuances of the economic development for that and how we can actually not only penetrate that, but utilize all of these initiatives to create a seat at the table and make tangible solutions.
Yes. And so you hit on another good point. I talk about this, in a corporate structure, but exactly what you said about the baby boomers, even though we're not gonna kill them off, Simone. People living longer, by the way.
Well, I'm just saying, okay, now you be smoking weed, you got another 20, 30, 40 years of me being a customer. You get Uncle John, you got 6 months to 6 years,
I feel you, but where I was going with this, to your point, just to reinforce it, I tell my clients, we're at the most intersectional point that we've been in history. We have baby boomers, we have Gen Xers, we talked about millennials, but we forget that Gen Z is now here in presence. But baby boomers are still in the workforce. They're still in the consumer base. So how do we figure out and navigate a landscape in the workplace, in the consumer base, in the political landscape where everybody's voice is heard? And that, again, goes back to why DEI is so important.
Well, Brian, just to correct you, the reason why we have such a discrepancy in employment is because baby boomers are retiring, and they're the last, and they did not come back to employment. So we need to be able to look at that. And that's what I'm saying, really understanding economics and public policy and really honing in. And that's my jam, right? And so a lot of it's even to a point where the financial reserve, the Federal Reserve, can't even track how many millionaires we've had since pandemic, simply because money is made differently. Now you can TikTok, you can OnlyFans, you can do a course, you can do this. When we're talking about all of these jobs not lost, it is because many of the baby boomers never returned back to work. They've retired. They said after pandemic, they didn't come. That's where those issues are. So we are in a financial revolution. Everything is different. If you're still talking about what we were talking about in 2019, you might as well have been in the penitentiary. It's a whole new world.
I love it. You're right. Hey, I cannot believe it, but time is wrapping up. And I want to give each of you any special announcements, appearances, opportunities that any of you would like to share with our audience. It's clear that these are all one-on-one conversations that we have to continue, that because you all brought so much substance and got me thinking about things for future episodes. So want to send a big thank you, but just also wanted to open up if anybody had any, closing announcements that they more information that they want to share with our
Well,
audience?
I think Roz just dropped something that Black Buddha Cannabis
Yes,
in Massachusetts today. So congratulations to Roz.
killing it, killing it.
Yay!
Congrats to our queen.
For it.
Yay! Hey, Miss Roz.
That display was dope on social media. That slow little rotating note. That was the little music.
I
going.
missed it. I gotta go on her page and go and check it out. I've
I
been
shoot it to you.
working.
I shared it.
Oh no, you did send it to me. Yes, you did. Okay.
Love
Well,
it.
as
Okay.
I mentioned earlier, Canna Coverage, we spoke at the National African American Insurance Association this past week, and just educating brokers and insurance professionals about the cannabis industry. We need underwriters and actuaries and producers in the business. And you got me and you got Simone to train a whole workforce and a new opportunity in this emerging market. But for all of those who are on this call today with us, go out and get educated in that space you want to be.
Yes.
But take a course at a local community college. State colleges are now offering MBA programs. So, educate, be prepared. Like
Put in
Ross
the
said,
work.
be ready.
Put in the work.
Be ready.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, again, I am beyond grateful to our listeners out there. Thank you, our viewers, I should say.
Real quick, sorry.
Yes, feel free, Anthony.
Yeah, real quick. So the Black Cannabis Conference in
Yes.
November, Alex, I'm actually speaking at 2:00 on the 4th, that Friday. But also anybody out there who has, who's a part of organizations that deal with social equity, I gladly donate my time to speak to you about avoiding pitfalls in terms of construction and engineering, because nobody's talking about this. Nobody thinks about what I do until you need it. And a lot of times it's sometimes too late. So we talk about your why, right? My why is to make sure that my people get a fair shake in this industry so that we can start building some wealth. And if that little piece of what I do, donating my time, helps, then so be it. So definitely hit me up. I'm on all social media platforms under Winston Engineering. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Anthony Winston III, and I'll pop up. So you Google my name and quite a few stuff pops up now.
He's a thing.
SEO is popping now. So
hey, love it. Thank you, Anthony. And thank you guys. And to our viewers, please, I think we're streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Please like, comment, share. We do this every month. We'll have some more thought leaders and pioneers coming into the house. My social medias on Facebook, it's Brian Brystar Martin, Bristar. My email is brystarent, BRISTARENT @gmail.com. Brystar619 on Twitter, and Brian K. Martin on LinkedIn. So send your feedback, your thoughts. What shows do you want to hear in the future? Who do you want to talk to and why? Feedback, questions. We're going to keep this train rolling. And just want to wish.
Brian,
why didn't you put your Christian mingle on there?
Wow.
You gonna tell the business.
You gave us everything but the match.com.
Hey, and that might mean that it's not needed anymore, Simone.
Yeah. And check us out at m4mmunited.org for all of the events coming up, because we'll be at Canna One Expo in Edison, New Jersey this week, Monday through Wednesday. And then you have Black Cannabis, obviously, November 3rd and November 2nd to the 4th. And then we have MJ Biz happening next month, November 15th through the 18th. So M for MM will be there strong.
We'll be there.
So check us out on the website to find out all these events.
Absolutely. And if you have not, go to MProcure.org or at our M for MM United website and register your business. If you know somebody in the industry, have them register your business. We're going to be the minority wall page. Well, white pages or black pages, I should say, are the go-to directory.
The green book.
With the black green book, something of that sort. But
all right,
we're building a robust database of talent, and you need to be a part of that movement. So thank you, everybody. Have a safe and fantastic weekend.
I love you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Awesome. Y'all have a good one.
Yes, see you guys next month.
Keep pressing.
Yep.